Hello, and welcome to another fancy place-setting episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts.
So
I
fancy.
have lost over 100 pounds. I am a Tiny Habit certified coach.
Yeah.
I am a Thrive Global certified coach.
Fancy.
I have a fork and a knife and another fork and another spoon and a bunch of different things.
Wow.
And I am ready to tuck into this episode of We Only Look Thin. And with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I barely know how to use one fork, let alone multiple forks. And I am also one of your hosts. I am a host of a podcast called We Only Look Thin.
Super cool
I was
guy.
trying to think of a super cool guy who doesn't know how to use a fork, and I completely forgot everything I usually say at the beginning of this. I have lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off for about 5.5 years, and we are here to talk about that.
Yep. And speaking of talking about things, I'm going to expose you for a moment. Speaking of
Oh,
forks.
no!
It was only, how long have we, just estimating. How many years have we been married?
Just estimating?
Estimating. Just guesstimate.
Just over 25 of them.
Just over 25 years.
Yeah.
Recently, you admitted to me, no, you didn't admit because you just didn't know. You didn't know that we had more than one size of fork in our house.
That's true.
You're like, what do you mean we got set? What do you mean two
Yeah.
lengths of what are tines? I don't know what a tine
Yeah,
is.
no, I thought all the forks were basically the same size.
They're very much not. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just a bro thing or a lady thing. I don't know. Who knows what kinds of forks are used for what?
I don't know. I feel like these different sized forks are like a product of a bygone era, and you can eat a salad perfectly well with a regular fork. Like, it doesn't have to be. Why does a shorter fork help you eat your salad more?
I don't know. Maybe because cherry tomatoes are smaller or something.
That's what it
because you
is.
don't eat. Of course, you eat a regular sized tomato with a giant fork, but a cherry tomato you eat with a small fork, right?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Did you set the table as a child? I actually don't know this.
Yeah, no, I said it a lot.
How
yeah.
many forks did you guys have? One?
Oh, we just had one. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing the
Maybe
number
when
of
we had company,
company.
My mother would break out the salad forks, maybe, but I'm actually not 100% sure.
The only thing
I can't remember.
The only thing I remember from, I was going to say Girl Scouts, but I didn't go to Girl Scouts. I went to Bluebirds.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the only thing I remember is actually the place setting.
I was going to
day.
call them generic Girl Scouts, but that's probably an insult to somebody somewhere.
No, there were other Bluebirds listening to this podcast. I received some strongly worded Bluebird messages, tweets, if you will.
Bluebirds
from-
are the superior Girl Scouts, is what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say.
But the only thing I remember is our etiquette class where we went over and put plates down and some forks and stuff.
That
But
sounds like scouting to me.
it sure does.
We did not do that in Boy Scouts.
What did you guys do?
We built cars out of wood
Kick
and
stuff.
learned how to make fires. And,
Those were the 80s.
yeah.
Well, nobody's learning how to make fires now.
We did archery and we did skeet shooting.
We did not.
Yeah.
We-
Boy Scouts were a pretty good time, actually.
Yeah, must have been nice to
Yeah.
be you.
No,
But
it was pretty good.
this bluebird is sitting down on the windowsill to answer a question brought to us by a listener.
Oh, yeah, wait, this isn't the Reminisce About Scouting podcast. Sorry, everyone. I forgot
Scout
why
and
we were
such.
here for a second. Yeah, Scout and such.
But a few months ago, we posted a question asking for questions to post on this very podcast. And so we are revisiting that. We actually got a number of different questions, but this one is actually from CJ, and it's not specifically about how many forks to use.
No, it's not
But
about scouting either.
It's about how many forks to give when you go over to someone else's house to eat, isn't it?
It is.
Would you like to read the
Sure.
email?
CJ asks, we only look thin. How is it that you are so good looking and you have a podcast and not a TV show? First of all, that's a great question, CJ.
Poor everyone. They've been putting up with our shenanigans for 5 years.
She wrote none of that. She wrote, could you revisit how to handle going for dinner at a friend's house? I'm now 2 years later, and the same friends still invite me over. Very lovely. But I'm still uncomfortable about rejecting some of their offerings. I'm 105 pounds down and kept down with your help.
Wow.
Yeah.
So first of all, that's amazing. I know I sound snarky. I don't know if Donald does, but I sound snarky all the time. But I think it is super duper amazing that CJ has lost over 100 pounds and is also being invited to the same friends to whom she was invited 2 years ago.
Yeah, I have a very simple answer to this question. It's what I do in my life. I become so unlikable
I was going to say
I don't get invited to anyone's house.
I was going to say, we usually, our turnover on friendships is pretty high. And we
when
make
someone
it
starts
so
inviting
weird.
me over, I just make it so that they have no interest in inviting me over ever again.
We actually have a new neighbor who I was accidentally nice to, and now I kind of regret it.
Yeah, it's your fault for being nice.
Yeah, if we were on some sort of a 1970s sitcom, this would be the neighbor that would not be looked forward to come over and say, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, you guys recording a podcast? What that's about?" Who doesn't know that I've lost weight? No one, because I say it all the time. And this person, I haven't explained it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do you do for your job? Computers. I just type on computers is what I do.
People think you're a good person.
I'm not. I'm
but
not.
deep down.
Yeah, but at least our neighbor doesn't know that I have a podcast, so
Now,
it's fine.
hopefully we're kidding about this not being invited over thing. Hopefully.
No, but anyway, as two socially awkward introverts, it is hard for us to maybe go out as much, especially post-pandemic, than it was years ago when we were young and footloose and fancy-free, as CJ might be. Just so much to look forward to, so many things going on. And I think it's really super that CJ still has friends.
Yeah.
So I will say that. But this is something that obviously we've talked about and other people. Jessica also chimed in on our Facebook chat that said, yes, we really need to normalize not feeling guilty about turning down food choices at other people's houses.
Yeah.
Which we totally agree. Boundaries are a really big thing. But we have some questions perhaps to pose. I have some questions about dinner in particular. Before we go into like the general big picture of like how to handle social situations and that kind of thing, to really look at CJ in particular. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Is the first question whether you ask your host whether their cookbook is to serve you dinner or to serve you for dinner?
To serve you for dinner.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, my questions were specifically for CJ also. Like being cooked for dinner is definitely that's part of the comedy. But like, do you notice, because it's dinner, right? It's never like, oh, they're inviting me to breakfast, whatever. Do they not have reflective surfaces in their house? Like, why is it always after dark that they're inviting you over? Yeah. Are you so good looking that they are afraid your neighbors will think that, they're friends with a celebrity of some kind?
Yeah.
Does their skin sparkle in the daylight? And that is why they can't go outside?
You really need to look out for that.
Are they constantly warring with werewolves? Like other vampires, and that's why they don't want you to come over.
Yeah.
Poor Donald.
You really
He's
need
looking at me like,
well, I just feel bad because I kind of stepped on your joke with the Twilight Zone aliens are going to eat people for dinner episode
It's all good. No, but those are, whenever someone's like, oh, you still have friends after 2 years? They're inviting you over. Do they want your kidneys?
You went with Edward the Sparkly Vampire inviting you over, and I went Twilight Zone.
It's fine. Well, I went Twilight versus Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Exactly. But let's assume that these are just normal humans. They appear in their corporeal forms at all times of day and night.
Nice use of corporeal.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's just assume that they're normal people and you're just a normal, good-looking person who's lost 100 pounds, who's popular and often invited over. We don't mean to sound bitter, do we, Donald?
No. No. Actually, you know what? I prefer not being invited over places if we're being honest.
That's the real gift.
The
friends
real gift is if you don't invite me over.
distance.
You know what? I'm going to get you for Christmas this year. Not going to invite you to my house.
Poor CJ.
You.
These people are 30 minutes into this
Thank you
episode,
so much.
and no one has gotten any valuable information yet.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
All chuckles aside.
Most might say that there have been no chuckles,
No
so
chuckles
far.
yet.
All the chuckles have been aside already.
Okay, so let's assume that CJ's question is a big picture question for many people in our listening audience, not just the night dwellers, the people of darkness.
Well, this is an issue a lot, and when I was actively trying to lose weight, I would come up against, and this is over and over again, not just the most recent time. I would come up against being afraid to go to somebody's house for dinner because it would throw off my schedule.
Right.
And I was worried that I would lose control and that I would use it as an excuse to then just keep eating and eating and eating. And I did that sometimes during my life as an adult trying to lose weight.
Well, and we've talked about it before and on the recent episode that we did about the disordered eating meme of being afraid of eating certain foods because of that lack of control. Well, I don't know how many calories are in it. And what if this leads, if I overeat today, does that mean I'm going to spend a week trying to recover from it? And I know that fear of regain is a real problem. But part of this, if we pull back into that big identity picture of ourselves, is who are we becoming? Are we becoming the kind of people who can go out to eat with friends every once in a while and maintain our habits and it's just a blip? Are we people who are able to set boundaries with friends to let them know what we need? Because it sounds like, and again, CJ asked a specific question and we're expanding upon it, is sort of why does it matter that you are having an issue with eating with your friends? Is it that calorie thing? Is it the uncertainty thing? Is it what you think it's going to bring you? Or is it really a boundary issue?
Yeah. And look, it could even be a frequency thing.
Yeah.
It could be that, if this was once in a while, once every couple of months, it wouldn't be a big deal. But maybe these friends are inviting her over weekly or even more often than that. And, having an indulgent meal that often just isn't going to fit into a fitness plan for CJ to keep her weight off.
Well, and two, and pulling back from CJ's question as well, is do you have a family Sunday dinner that you're invited to all the time? Do you have things for your kids' school? Do you have work obligations? This doesn't necessarily just have to be with friends at their house. It can be any situation where you feel like maybe you don't have that control. But part of really living a life of weight loss and weight maintenance is becoming your own person and feeling confident enough in your own needs and your own space to decide what you're going to eat and when you're going to indulge. Because it's not that living in a vacuum, I'm going to lose the weight, there's no magic time at which food suddenly isn't delicious. And I don't know whose house you're going over to. Maybe it's that they don't have good food.
Yeah, maybe.
But
that might be the problem. That's the actual issue. They keep inviting me over, which is lovely, but they don't serve me anything I like to eat.
Yeah, so we could talk about that too. But part of it is just having boundaries with your mindset and with people around you.
And, some of this, most of this, what it sounds like on the surface to me is about setting boundaries, and it might involve a much larger area than this podcast can deal with. And you might even require professional help if you really, really can't set boundaries in your life. And we've done deep dives into setting boundaries, and I'll link to some of those episodes in the show notes. But, sort of learning to say what you need in your life is an important step in really in a lot of things, but also as part of your health and fitness journey venture.
Yeah. And part of that too, and the boundaries, and like Donald said, we've done other episodes on this, is what is the big deal about letting people know what you need? I know that there are some relationships where I'm very candid about how I feel about food and I feel comfortable. Whereas in others, maybe like as a couple or as things, and you don't really want to talk about your weight loss issues because not everything needs to be on public display. But what you can do is decide how much you want to expose of yourself and also decide what kind of agency you have in the food relationship with the people. Donald has some great suggestions of just some, like if you don't want to make a really big deal out of it and you're trying to practice small ways of asserting boundaries, you can often deflect your choices and not make it all super personal.
So yeah, if you really aren't ready to stand up and actually make a big deal about it or open up about what's going on, you can say things like, "I'm so full, I just can't eat another bite." You can do things like just take a really long time to eat. You can be sneaky and just eat some of the food and toss the rest. And saying things like, "I just don't want to get too full before dessert," or "Boy, I'm getting really full already. I need to slow down."
Yeah.
And really, you can pick around your food and not actually eat as much of it as maybe even you want to, but certainly enough to keep yourself on your calorie goal.
Right, and we totally get in terms of boundaries that I'm not something like, well, some podcasters would say, flip the table over in anger about it. Like there is. I mean, we've had grandparents and people like bosses and stuff, and you don't necessarily want to be like, well, these are my boundaries and I'm setting them with you. Like, it's okay to just be like, oh, I'm good. Like, oh, it's fine, and not make a big deal out of it. You don't need to expose your entire life history with people at all times. It's not often appropriate. But like Donald said, those little things of like, oh, I'm already full or I'm saving room for later, I think are really good small ways to set boundaries. And it doesn't mean you're a faker or you're not being your honest self. Sometimes it doesn't require...
No, look, we've all had those people in our lives, like Catherine said, grandmother, an aunt, an uncle, like, who don't understand when you reject their food. They see it as a rejection of their love or their kindness. And it can be really difficult in those cases to actually tell those people how you feel and what's going on. And I get that. I've certainly been there. And even at my age of 53 years old, being a grown adult, I find it difficult in some of those situations to really say what I need.
Well, and too, as a vegetarian for you, there are times you've had like great uncles and stuff be like, well, why are you a vegetarian? What's that? Like, and sometimes it's just not worth the argument or the fire. Well, you lost enough weight. What are you gonna do? Oh, like,
yeah, you're right, Uncle. I'm an idiot.
Boy, you sure got me there.
Yeah, you got me.
So like Donald said, you have the opportunity to take small steps by those small deflecting statements that just sort of push the food topic along. If you're in a position to take more agency with your food choices, you can always bring something with you that you can have as your main attraction. I was going to say meal, but you weren't making eye contact with me. And what I really wanted to say was pump up the volume. So you could bring a really delicious side dish in order to pump up the volume. Bring a delicious side vegetable dish where, say, they're delicious food, but you bring something high volume, low calorie that you can load up your plate on and feel satisfied that you're getting what they are serving you. You don't want to be rude, but you're also getting something that you like. If you are ready to take some more agency there.
Yeah, and another thing you can do is, when possible, try to collaborate ahead of time on the food itself. Make requests, or like Catherine said, bring something that you can comfortably eat.
Yeah, and if they say, oh, don't bring a thing, we're set. You know what? Bring something anyway. What are they going to do? Kick you out of the house? Then you don't have to eat anyway.
Exactly.
Yippee! Well, and back to the point about frequency. Let's say, for example, you have friendships that go on for years and years, and you're not able to make it really weird and have people start...
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Exactly. If it really is once every 2 months or something, it might just be a control issue for you and not necessarily a calorie issue. Donald and I have learned, I was just away for 10 days and overate, and then I got home and I got right back on track.
Yeah.
being in a position where you know how to recover as soon as you get back home really does matter. You don't need to take leftovers. You don't need to make it like an end of the world. Oh my gosh, I tried to have a 30-day streak of being on track and now I'm off track and I'm starting over again. That's not what it's about. It's about having an identity of someone who can have an occasional indulgence and move on from it. But if it really is a frequency issue where you find it's not just the one person, but it's also the school events and the work events and all of the things getting in the way, because I know that happens to us too, is if you have the opportunity to change the frequency of your time with your friends, maybe do that and suggest something alternative. They're inviting you over all the time. Why aren't you inviting them over to do something on your terms?
Yeah, you could invite them over for something completely not food related. You could do a game night, a movie night, hang in the park, a stroll at a museum, a hike, a walk, a book discussion. You can do shopping or running errands together, a flea market.
Yeah, flea market's a really good one.
You can meet for coffee.
What?
Like coffee's like an easy thing to do without a ton of calories for, well, at least for a lot of people.
Yeah, like a paint your own ceramics night or a painting night or something like that.
You know, or invite them over for dinner and then you are in complete control of the food and what is served. And that is another way to go.
Yeah. And if you are ready to really dig down deep into the relationship, and this is something that I've had to work on, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone in the entire world has to know your business. But what kind of a relationship do you have with the people? Do you think that they would actually really be offended if you turn down food? Or is it just something personal where you have your own sense of guilt about things? Because the more time I have taken to understand my own role in relationships and how it actually affects me to hide my needs, it has really changed my relationship with people. I have had people in my life who have said like, oh my gosh, are you going to eat all that? Or you're not going to eat all that? Or if you don't eat all that, that means you don't love me. Maybe more with
also the opposite. You'll never lose weight eating like that.
If you eat like that, exactly. Some people might not even know that you've lost weight and maybe you just don't want to make it an issue. But the more we can practice in small ways, building those muscles of self-confidence, of looking for options for ourselves, whether it's changing the venue, changing it to not a nighttime activity, but something more active, and even finding the right time and the right people where we just, maybe it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to the couple about it. But if you have a relationship with someone going, yeah, you know what? Eating, is really tough for me because of my weight issues. Like I have a hard time moderating my food choices. I have a hard time not feeling like I'm going to spiral, and it can actually bring a relationship closer. I know for me, what I saw in myself was I didn't want to assert my boundaries around food with other people.
Yeah.
And if they weren't eating, I would eat in secret.
Yeah.
So that it wouldn't look like I was hungry, or I would only try to eat when they were eating or match their portion size, and then I would secret eat afterward. So what's the actual impact of you not speaking your needs, or at least, taking some control and agency over the situation? There are times when Donald and I literally just go like, all right, well, this is what I'm eating and I'm going to enjoy it. And I don't know how many calories it is. I'll mark it as 2,000 and move on. And like tomorrow's a new day and it'll be fine, because not all fights are worth fighting for.
Maybe the easiest fight to have is the one that you don't have.
Yeah, or it's just the emotional, like, okay, I'm giving this too much energy. But the more options we can see in front of us and the more we can decide case by case what we want to do about it, you know what? I'm going to indulge, but I'm going to skip dessert tomorrow night. I'm going to indulge, but I'm not going to have alcohol. I'm going to indulge, but I'll also bring my own favorite vegetable dish that I can have as a side to pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. We always have options, and it's great to be invited over. But once we get to the point of being afraid of social situations, which is something that, like I said, I was afraid of years ago, where I didn't want to go out because I had to eat my cabbage soup, like that was not healthy. But living the lifestyle of a healthy person, a grown-up adult person with boundaries and with their own needs, means knowing what agency you have in your choices and making sure that those choices support the friendships that are meaningful to you.
Yeah, for sure. And just to, echo something that Catherine said, and this is certainly much easier said than done, but one option here is to really stand up for yourself and to really tell your friends and family what you need and what you want. As an adult, if you can't do that now, when can you do it? And when you open up about your eating plan and really give details, it can really help people when they know what's going on.
Yeah.
And really help them understand and not be offended. And so then they will become more aware of not offering you things that you don't actually want to eat because they're not part of your plan, and maybe open them up to the idea of seeing you without it being a food-based activity more.
Well, and as part of this, navigating relationships not involving food is hard enough.
Yeah.
And deciding how much of yourself that you want to share, how much, emotional energy you want to put into the relationship, and how much candor is actually deserved in all of it. Not everyone has to know all of your business, but you can take steps to make it easier to make choices that you want to make.
Yeah.
Bring your own food to make it something that you're not going to feel weird about eating, changing the venue or the frequency to make it not all about food, and to also just understand yourself better and put better options in place for you after the meal. Because I didn't get 100 pounds overweight because of my social life. That wasn't my issue. My issue was that everything was a party all of the time. It was always the right day to overindulge. And planning our futures in a way that's like, you know what? Monday through Friday, I eat at a deficit. And on weekends, I eat at maintenance or maybe even a little bit above, and then I'm able to maintain my weight. It's not always about just eating at maintenance every day. I look at each week as it's coming and look at the challenges coming up and go like, oh, okay, so this week I'm going to have lighter food choices during the week because I know we've got a big thing coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So what really is the problem, CJ?
What's your problem, CJ?
What is the problem? If you send us a private message, we can reach out anonymously to your friends and let them know that they are super duper. But they need to cut it with the salad fork because Donald doesn't understand it.
Yeah, it's all, yes, absolutely. Very well
When
said.
you're a vegetarian, is everything a salad fork?
That's right. Everything can be eaten with a salad fork. 100%. Well, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you being here. We are truly grateful that you have taken some time out of your day to listen to this episode of our podcast. We have many, many more episodes available. Wherever you found this one, we are available on all of the major podcast platforms and also anytime, whenever you would like, on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep. And if you're at weonlylookthin.com, there is a little search bar. If you type in their boundaries, you'll get all of the episodes that we've done on boundaries.
That is very true.
There's lots of different things we could...
Dating way back to the early Dog the Boundary Hunter.
It is true. But once you have listened to every single episode, if you want to click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about Wolt Place, We Only Look Thin Place is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a place for support, ideas, fellowship. We do habit trackers. We have Zoom meetings. I was gonna, say like we have flag football games every Tuesday. We don't. No, but it is a private place.
That I would like to see. We Only Look Thin Place flag football team.
No, that would not. You would have to be more active if we had a virtual flag football team.
Yeah, I like watching football. Playing it is not necessarily my thing.
No, but it's a great place for understanding and support. But we have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wool Place is right for you. People have questions all the time in the group where we get great feedback from many members with suggestions on how to deal with situations. And also, if you just want to vent and you don't want any advice or opinions, you can just say, I'm venting. And also, please send me GIFs of maybe some pugs.
Yeah.
And then we'll do that. Why not?
And
or
that's
a
what
corgi.
That's what I do. I go there just to vent.
Just to vent and post pictures of pugs and corgis.
Corgis, that's right.
And forks. So we have 2 subscription options. Check it out. I'm very active there. Like I said, we do Zoom meetings. It is a great place if you need a little extra support. So check it out.
Absolutely. And if you want to act with us in other ways, you can find us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at We Only Look Thin. And you can also send us an email if you so desire. We have an email address. It's pretty fancy. We only look thin at gmail.com. We love getting episode suggestions. We like questions like CJ asked. You can send those there. We've turned a lot of listener questions into episodes of this show, and we can also answer your questions there. So send us an email.
Yep. And if you have a couple of spare minutes and can head over to Apple Podcast, please leave us a rating and a review. Not only does it let us know that what we're doing is making a difference in your journey venture, but it also helps the fine people of Apple help guide other people in our direction when they are looking for inspirational, maybe vampire-focused, conspiracy theory, weight loss podcasts like ours.
The new Twilight version of this podcast is coming soon. And another way you could really help us out is just to tell somebody about the show. Word of mouth is one of the best ways in which the show grows. People really value your opinion. So if you are face-to-face with somebody on the phone, if you are online in a Discord server, a Reddit group, something that where it makes sense to bring us up, and you give us a shout-out, it really helps the show grow.
Yep.
So if you are Team Edward or Team Bluebird, just remember...
Edbird.
Just remember, if you're Team Edbird, just remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration.
I was trying to do like a vampire thing. It's the wrong time of year for that.
Yeah. The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.